He was just sitting in the dark this whole time?
I wonder if the electricity's off.
So, why?
Hold on a second. What if he's not actually the house owner? You know, I've never delivered pizza as a job, but I imagine it would be a pretty viable option if I needed some work. You know, you don't have to have a whole lot of skill, which, I mean, I know how to eat pizza pretty well. I know my pizzas, but to tell you the truth, it's not like a skill that you have to develop. You have to be good with people, which I think I'm pretty good at, and you have to be able to take direction or follow a GPS nowadays, which is not too hard. And you get a pretty good wage from what I hear. There's flexible hours too. I mean, you get tips, you get vehicle mileage compensation, and you get an hourly rate. You know, that's a pretty good deal in my book. And honestly, outside of where you'd have to go, I believe the job would be relatively straightforward. Now, I always tip the pizza delivery people very well, because the neighborhood that I live in is not exactly high class, if you know what I mean. And honestly, it's not one of these dark back alleys in a big city that you would think I would never go down. But there is a significant portion of the houses around here that look like you wouldn't want to deliver pizza to them, if you know what I mean. So I usually take care of them because I realize it's not like they're risking their life, but there's probably a little bit of paranoia that comes with coming to my neighborhood sometimes, especially at night, and I'd rather take care of them. So there's probably some ups and downs with pizza jobs, you know, and there's a horror story that goes with pizza delivery too. We've done one before by Spook that was very, very good. This one's by MJV Animations. Make sure to head on over to his channel and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and if you like reaction videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel as well. Let's get into this animation.
When I was 20 years old, so 6 years ago, I worked as a delivery girl for a pretty popular pizzeria in my area.
Pizza MJV.
Initially, I worked the late morning to mid-afternoon shift.
That's a good shift.
But when the guy who delivered for the night shift ended up getting fired for losing his license, I was placed on the night shift.
Oh no.
I really didn't want that shift.
Objection.
Because you never know if people who order late at night actually want a pizza, or if they have other intentions in mind.
I don't think I've ever ordered a pizza without any intention, except maybe extra breadsticks or drinks too. You know, honestly, I suppose that you could order a pizza with the intention of having a certain delivery driver come to your house, but I don't think it's too much of a common practice, right?
Unfortunately, my boss was an arsehole, and essentially told me that if I wasn't willing to take the night shift, I was fired.
What?
I wasn't exactly in a position where I could be out of work, albeit temporarily.
Oh my
God.
God.
I reluctantly worked the shift.
I'm sorry, but there's somebody that just got fired from your work, okay? And I understand picking up a shift here or there, but if it's not your availability, screw them. You already lost one person. You want to lose two? Don't test me, baby. Don't test me. I can deliver pizza anywhere. This is not some sort of holy grail job that can't be replaced, you know? I can go get another job somewhere else. Not to take anything or credit away from people that deliver pizza, but honestly, if they can fill a position with a replacement, you can get another job as well. I wouldn't take that kind of crap. Not for long, at least.
The first month of this shift went by without any issues.
Right.
That is, until I had to deliver a pizza to a house that just barely made our delivery radius.
Okay. Very outside.
I punched it into our GPS, and the house was located in a pretty suburban part of the city.
Okay.
I arrive, and it's about 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
The block was extremely quiet, decently lit, and mostly littered with modern townhouses.
11 o'clock's late.
The house I delivered to was a duplex. I ring the doorbell and wait for about 30 seconds. No answer.
Alright.
I ring it again and wait about another 30 seconds. Still, no answer.
Leave it on the doorstep, call the customer. Contact us delivery due to that pandemic. You know, right now, that's kind of how they say on their websites that they'll do it, at least in my area. You know, we got a couple pizza places that deliver, and they like, we offer contact us delivery. We'll just leave it on your porch, knock at your door, and give you a call, you know, or wait outside and watch, you know, until you pick it up. Most of the time, they just give you a call saying that your pizza's ready, just to confirm that you received it. or if any bad thing happened, you could report, like the pizza was cold or whatever. But it's a pretty cool way to be able to do business nowadays with everything that's going on, you know?
I'm standing there, getting pretty nervous that something's about to go down. But, thankfully, a man opens the door.
Uh-huh.
He looked like he was in his late 40s.
All right.
He was pretty tall, maybe a little over 6 foot.
Wow.
And
All right.
he was very skinny.
Okay. He needed pizza.
I tell him his pizza is here, and he just stands there, staring at me. I ask him if he's okay, and he responded by saying, "Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry. I got off work not too long ago, and I'm zoning out a bit." Fair enough, I suppose. He hands me the money. I hand him the pizza.
Uh-huh.
And as I'm making change, he says, "You're really beautiful, you know that?"
Oh, wow.
Not really thinking too much into it, I thanked him for the compliment and gave him his change. I said goodnight, and he did too.
You know, that's a pretty forward comment. Complimenting people's looks in general, especially if it's a man to a woman, not to be sexist or closed-minded or anything, but there's a stigma around stuff like that. And in the situation that she's in, even though the compliment itself wasn't extremely inappropriate, it doesn't seem in the right place. It's always kind of weird when people make compliments openly to people at their workplaces, because as a representative of a company, you have to maintain your composure and still represent the company, and they're doing something completely personal that you can't really respond to in the way that you might want to respond to if you weren't at work. So it's always kind of weird. I wouldn't suggest doing it at all. Friendly compliments, not "you're really beautiful." that's a little bit suggestive. I would just say, "Hey, I really like your shirt," or "That's a neat," you know what I mean? Something much more simplistic if you just wanted to create conversation and maybe it happened to lead somewhere else.
I walked back to my car and finished my deliveries for the night. A few days later, I get a delivery order to the same place.
Right.
I head over there around the same time as last time, and again ring the doorbell.
So they don't know it's going to be
He
you.
answers the door very
you're the
excitedly
only delivery
and
person.
said, "Hey, it's you again. How are you?"
Yeah.
I told him I was tired and that I couldn't wait to go home, which he chuckled at. "I know that feeling pretty well," he said as he was pulling out his wallet. As he's counting his money, he asks what my name is.
Okay.
Being kinda tired at this point and not really thinking too straight, I stupidly tell him my name.
All right.
As I'm making change, he asks if he could have my number, as he'd, quote-unquote, love to hang out with someone as gorgeous as I am.
Wow. Now that's very suggestive. And even though you're at your house and you might feel kind of comfortable, if you have the right kind of conversation with somebody, I suppose after maybe a few visits, you could get their number. But I don't know, man. I still don't think it's appropriate. It's 11 o'clock at night, too. I wouldn't do it.
Whoa, buddy. Pump the brakes. I've literally only met this guy like twice to deliver a pizza. I had no idea who this guy was.
Right.
And I'm positive he barely knew who I was as well.
Plus, he's much older than you, right?
Another thing to mention is that I looked way younger than I was at the time.
Uh-huh.
I was told by numerous people that I still looked about 15, and I was hoping that he thought differently.
Well,
and wasn't hitting on me because he thought I was a teenager.
Even if you're 20 or 21.
I'm just standing there awkwardly
He's
for a
40.
few seconds before
Late
I
40s.
muster out. "Sorry, I have a boyfriend."
Yeah, there you go.
He gets upset and says, "Oh, okay, I see." We stand there in silence before I tell him to have a good night and walk back to my car. He says nothing and still stands at the doorway, staring at me until he finally went back inside once I started my car.
You know, another thing, I know there's very little flexibility you have in how to diffuse a situation that you think is weird. Saying that you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend when somebody approaches you and, that you're not interested in and they're propositioning you for a commitment of some sort like that, normally I would be more direct with him. And this is just, in the future, if you could practice tactically saying, look, I'm really not interested. It does open more of a like why conversation, but if people ask that, that's another red flag that you know what I mean? Saying that I have a boyfriend doesn't necessarily take interest away from them, which in my opinion is bad, because if the only thing stopping you from being with them is a boyfriend, then it kind of targets the boyfriend as an obstacle, right? Or if you break up with that boyfriend, so to speak, and they knew that, they could pursue you again. And you'd still have to have that conversation with them saying, look, I'm not very interested in you, you know? It's kind of a touchy subject, but just in general, when people suggest to me that they're interested in me, my excuse isn't always I'm married. But it works pretty good when you are married. You could just say, you know, I'm really not interested. And if they ask why again, you can say, well, I'm happily married. I'm in love, you know, that kind of thing.
I got a pretty creepy vibe from this guy, and even brought it up with my co-workers. They agreed it was pretty creepy.
Right.
They all agreed, that is, except for my boss, who overheard everything and claimed that I was just making up stories for sympathy.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Fucking arsehole.
This dude.
A week later, I'm working the night shift, and we get an order from that same guy again.
Yeah.
This is when shit really hits the fan.
Uh-oh.
I arrive at the house around 10:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind that from my perspective on the road, it didn't look like a single light in that house was on.
All right.
I get out of my car and I walk up to the front door with the pizza box. As I'm approaching the door, it quickly swings open to reveal the man.
Uh-huh.
Except this time, he was wearing a suit.
All right.
I jumped back. He laughs and says, "Sorry if I scared you. I saw you out of the window and figured I'd just open the door now so you wouldn't have to ring the bell."
All right.
I was getting scared because, as I mentioned before, there were no lights on in his house whatsoever.
Right.
He was just sitting in the dark this whole time?
I wonder if the electricity's
And
off.
so, why?
Hold on a second. What if he's not actually the house owner? You remember the little kid story when the little boy was a monster and his parents were monsters and they would lure people into that house? There's not much of a vetting process to the pizza delivery deal, is there? Like, they don't need to know that that's where you live or it's your permanent address or whatever. Honestly, if you're on the roadside and there's an address, you can give a pizza delivery place that address and they'll come deliver pizza to you. You could be in a parking lot somewhere. I don't know if it's by residence or business only. And even if it is by residence, anybody that's visiting you can order pizza. They don't say, well, you don't live there or that's not your correct address. They deliver pizza to you anyway. What if this entire thing is a scheme to get a victim? If he's ordering one pizza at a time every week, honestly, he's out $60 and he's got a victim to this abandoned house that he's squatting at or something. Oh man, I don't like this one bit.
I nervously laugh and say it's okay. He asked me if I liked his suit, to which I said yes. He then asks me, "Would you like to go on a date with me tonight?"
No.
What the fuck? I once again tell him that I have a boyfriend, to which he chuckles, gets close to me, and says, "Honey, there's no way a girl your age is in a serious relationship. If you go on a date with me, I'll show you how a real man treats a girl."
Wow.
He grabs the pizza box from me and throws it to the side. He then grabs me by my arms, hard.
Dude, yell and run.
I'm officially shitting bricks at this point.
Yep.
And trying not to cry from the fear that was overwhelming me. I start pleading with him. "Dude, please, I just want to go home. I don't want to go on a date tonight." He just stares at me with the most sinister look I have ever seen on someone's face and says, "I don't care. Get inside, now.
Wow.
We're gonna have a good time."
No.
He starts trying to pull me into his house.
Fight,
and
baby,
I'm trying
fight!
to resist as hard as I can.
Fight! Kick him! Kick
After
him
a
in the
bit of struggling,
balls!
he lets go of one of my arms.
There you go.
I did something
Smack!
that to this day I am thankful worked. I used my free arm to
Boom!
punch him as hard as I could in the stomach.
In the sternum, baby.
This stuns him for a few seconds.
Hell yeah.
And he loosens his grip on me.
Get in the
allowing
car and
me
run.
to break free. I quickly
Yes.
onto my car, and as I get in, he runs at me. I grab a half-empty bottle of soda I had in the cup holder and throw it.
Yeah, there you go. Boom.
Luckily, it hits him in the head, and he lets go.
Wow.
I slam the door. I put the car in reverse,
Yep.
then quickly back out of the spot, reversing down the road with him desperately trying to hold on.
Wow. On the
He's
hood.
banging on my hood, screaming, "Stop the f***ing
What a
car!"
freak, dude.
I turn onto the next road as swiftly as possible, and luckily, he falls off the hood of my car.
Thank goodness. Dude, call
I
911
slammed the gas
immediately.
as hard as I could to get as far away from that sick bastard as possible.
Wow.
In my panicked state, I drove a couple of blocks down the street and kept making turn after turn onto other side blocks as I feared he was following me.
I guess so. Can you imagine, like, if you've ever been assaulted, okay, and after the situation is over with, whether it's a fight or a serious altercation or anything, you are, I won't say necessarily in shock, but you're shook, right? Your adrenaline is pumping. Your mind's all over the place. You keep replaying the situation in your head. You're paranoid about something else happening. It takes a little while to calm down from that. Driving in that type of, I guess, feeling is really, really difficult too. And poor baby, she already felt a panic because of the multiple instances that she had to go because she's on a night shift, and that just happened. I can only imagine now. She's probably in pieces mentally, you know, and emotionally. Whew.
Eventually, I reached a red light, and I slammed on the brakes and just sat there at the intersection,
Catch your breath.
frozen from what had just happened.
Catch your breath.
Once the light turned green. Eventually, I get the energy to drive back to the pizzeria, and almost immediately after I walk in, my coworker knew that something was wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
My coworker comforted me, and my boss surprised me and began apologizing profusely for what had just happened
Wow.
and for putting me on the night shift. He takes me into the office and handed me the phone to call the cops.
Mm-hmm.
They arrive at the store, and I give them my statement and any scratches on my car. My coworker followed me as I drove home, and I
Thank
collapsed
goodness.
on my bed.
I don't know if I'd work the night
Strangely
shift
enough,
anymore, dude.
I managed to fall asleep. I quit my job the next day, and luckily, a friend of mine managed to hook me up with a new job at her clothing store.
There you go.
As far as the psycho goes, 2 days later, I received an update from the police.
Mm-hmm.
The entire duplex was owned by the guy's brother, who lived on the right side with his wife.
Okay.
The psycho lived on the left side of the duplex.
So he did live there.
I learned that he had been in and out of jail constantly. At first for robberies and assaults,
Yeah.
but later on. He had been released from jail for about 5 months before this encounter.
Wow.
When the cops arrived at the house, he was long gone, and his family had no idea where he had run off to.
Of course.
The police insisted that they would find him. Indeed, they did. Apparently, the guy had fled to a nearby city and attempted to kidnap a teenager walking
Wow.
alone late at night on the street. Luckily, somebody happened to be looking out their window at the right time,
And called. Yeah.
and they called the cops, and the police caught him trying to force her into his car.
Mm-hmm.
I thanked the officers for everything
Thank
they had done
goodness, man.
and for informing me, and I walked out of the station. I walked down the street and light up a cigarette,
Yeah.
taking in everything I'd just been told. I felt relieved that he couldn't hurt anyone anymore.
Yeah.
I was relieved that I would never have to encounter him again and reliving what had happened that night.
Mm-hmm.
My last experience 2 years before this was scary, but I think this one takes the cake as being the scariest, as I was alone and face to face with a psycho. Who knows where I'd be if he managed to pull me inside that house.
Oh my gosh. You know, people like that, bruh. That's the best thing that can happen to you if that kind of thing happens to you, is to know that these people are behind bars. I have various instances in my life where we've been victimized by certain people. You know, I was a victim of an attempted stabbing that the guy ended up getting incarcerated, and it was such a big relief when I knew that he was behind bars. You know, it was a huge relief, and the thought that people get away with stuff like this and they continue to victimize other people by you reporting it and getting things handled, you might save someone else, you know, someone that you know. Even sometimes it's a detached feeling, right? Like some random person got saved, you know, but what if it was somebody you knew? You know, it's crazy to think about like that, man. Yeah, I'm not a rat, but at the same time, if there's somebody that's committing violent crimes like that, they deserve to be at least rehabilitated. Not necessary. They deserve to be punished if they hurt other people too. You know, us law-abiding citizens shouldn't have to worry about that. There's a lot of different reasons that people are motivated to do things like that, but this is just sinister intent, and it does deserve to be punished, I think. You know, maybe he can be rehabilitated. I don't know. Most of the time, I wouldn't give people the time of day that did something like that. Maybe you feel differently, I don't know. But at any rate, this was a pretty interesting story. I really liked it. MJV Animations, you guys. Make sure to subscribe to him and a couple other videos that I reacted to him from here. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off, and we'll see you next time.